Welcome to OLC 4.0. This is term 2A. We are on class 25, looking at assignment 36. Today is Tuesday, March. Oh, I got 25th, but I think it's 26th here. I'm wondering if I have the wrong day. And more on clauses. Okay, student information page. Student work at nnec.on.ca. Please include your full name, course name, assignment number, and name. If an assignment asks for both a rough and a good draft, please label which is which and include them both in the same email. If you have a question, go ahead and email me at jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. My Facebook and YouTube are the same address, capital G, capital P, ERCY, space, capital W, AHSA. All right, moving on to our work. Today's work is understanding noun clauses, reviewing how to write a news article, reviewing how to write a lead, discussing how to write a body paragraph, discussing do's and don'ts of how to write a news article with a journalistic approach. Okay. Hang on a sec. You know what? I think, oh yeah, okay. I apologize. This is incorrect. All right. Today we are actually looking at how to write a cover letter. Okay. That's why I was having some strange deja vu there. Okay. Adjectives. Adjective clauses are dependent clauses that give information about nouns. They allow you to combine two sentences into one by using relative pronouns, which are who, whom, whose, where, when, which, that, and why, as connectors. These pronouns are acting as the subject of the clause. The clause must also have a verb, which can include state of being verbs such as am, is, are, was, and were. These kinds of clauses generally come right after the noun they are describing instead of before the noun. And I'm including them because we use them all the time in speech, and then sometimes we're not quite sure where they come grammatically in a sentence when we go to write it. So for example, using the one who, my friend who was sick borrowed my medicine. The experienced doctor whom many people respect is the new head of the department. I admire the new singer whose latest single just hit #1. So the entire clause that's underlined is basically working as an adjective. It's called an adjective clause, but it's basically describing the noun that it's following. I met a man that works at the new store. The house, which has just gone on sale, is looking beautiful. And you can tell when the adjective clause has stopped because you'll end up with like the sentence kind of begins again where the verb is. I have always wanted to visit the coast where my friend has a cabin by the ocean. The wintertime, when it gets dark early, often triggers depression for people. Okay. Oh, adverb clauses, like any clause, must have both a subject and a verb. Adverb clauses will answer the same questions that an adverb does. How, why, where, when. And I see that I did not 100% finish this. So I will come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to put like a little note on here to myself. I apologize. I thought I had finished this, but I didn't quite, I guess. Put like a little heart on here and finish tomorrow. So that means we will also kind of skip over the next little thing was supposed to be a little tiny quiz on clauses and sentences. So we're going to skip over that right now. Okay, so we're going to be talking about business letters in terms of a cover letter today, but I'm going to start with just talking about a friendly letter just because it's probably more familiar to most of us. Not everybody's written a cover letter, but most of us have written some sort of friendly letter, even if it was only just back in school. So friendly letters are generally going to have a date, a greeting like dear so-and-so, body paragraphs on also personal issues, a closing like yours truly or love, and then the signature. So an example here, we've got our date, 26th of May, 2010. Dear Evie, I am in Paris, which is a place in France. I have been eating some of the yummy food. They have the best cakes and pastries here. My favorite are the chocolate croissant. Today I went to the Louvre Museum. It is enormous. I saw some very famous paintings and some big sculptures there. What painting might you like to see if you visited the Louvre? Yours truly, Gabby XXX. Okay, so business letters follow a slightly different format. They still have all the parts, but they're a little bit just shifted a little bit. A business letter, yeah, okay. On the next page, we're going to have a business letter labeled. What do you notice with the letter? What is different about it compared to a friendly letter? Okay, so here it's kind of really small, and I apologize. It's because I'm not really concerned about you reading the letter so much as I am having you understand the format. Okay, so um, there is a date, but first you're going to have the address of the sender. So if you're writing the letter, you would put your address there. Sometimes it goes on this right-hand side. Sometimes it goes over here on the left-hand side. Then under that would go the address to who you're sending it to, then the date, then they call it a salutation, but it's also like a greeting. Then in a business letter, you're going to get right down to the opening statement and talk about why you've written the letter. In a friendly letter, you probably wouldn't do that. You'd probably make some small chit chat, but in a business letter, you get right down to it because you don't want to waste people's time. Then you'd have different paragraphs. Each paragraph needs a point. The paragraphs are just kind of a structure to help the recipient understand the points being made in the letter. And then you'd have like a closing statement, which should restate the main point of the letter, and then an ending or, yeah, a closing. Generally, business letters are going to be written in much more formal language than a friendly letter. You don't want to have a lot of slang or too much casual chit chat. It tends to be a very formal, almost a stiff kind of writing. So here's kind of like a little comparison between the business letter and a personal letter. Okay. Nature. Okay, the nature means like what's its purpose? A business letter or commercial letter is impersonal and universal in nature. A personal letter is fully personal, right? You're not writing personal letters to strangers, you're writing them to friends. Purpose business letter is exchanging various business-related issues and information. A personal letter is exchanging personal or family-related affairs and information. Scope. Scope is like what kind of topics can it cover? So a business letter scope is wide and covers various types of business information. It could be advertising or invoicing or receipts or complaints or all sorts of things. Personal letter has a very limited range. It's really only going to contain personal information. It's just like a written conversation, basically. Structure. Business letters follow an officially recognized structure. Now, it says here, personal letter does not follow any recognized structure. And that's because even though we showed the parts, like nothing would happen if you wrote to your best friend and didn't include the date, or if you didn't include a closing. No one's going to be offended or upset because it's just you writing to a friend, right? Formality. Business letter maintains formal rules and procedures. Personal letter is informal. Size. A business letter generally is very concise, in other words, small in size, and avoids irrelevant matter. It'd be unusual for business letters to go more than a page or two. Personal letters may be concise or it could be large in size. It really depends. If someone you're writing to is, say, you're here and they're over in Europe having some amazing travels, they might write several pages of information to you. Types. Business letters can be categorized in different areas. Generally, you can't really categorize a personal letter. A personal letter could go from talking about your travels to talking about your health to talking about people's family, and there's not really any one specific type that it has to be. Salutation. Salutation is also called the greeting, right? For business letters, you usually use sir, dear sir, dear Mr. Brown. Sometimes I've seen two. Personal letter salutation is dear friends, my dear so-and-so. Um, Language. Business letter language should be easy and simple. Personal letter language may be easy, poetic, emotional, funny. There's a much wider range available when it's a personal letter. Copy. Business letter, they always preserve a copy of the business letter in case it gets lost, needs to get resent, causes some sort of commotion. Generally, people don't make copies of their personal letters, however. Method. Business letters use a direct method and persuasive, right? A lot of times businesses, if they're having letters and communications with people, they're trying to convince them to buy a product or a service. Personal letters, it says here it only uses direct method. I'm going to say in general that is true, but you could be trying to persuade somebody like, hey, do you want to marry me? Or hey, do you want to come on this great trip? So it could use persuasive. All right. Okay, so lesson 14 is all about applying for work. Hang on. A letter of application, known more commonly as a cover letter, is normally required by employers, along with a resume from potential employees who are interested in more permanent types of jobs that generally pay higher salaries. The types of jobs for which a cover letter and resume are requested by employers are ones as well that there are usually more qualifications needed for. Not sure if this is still true. I think that used to be true. I think it's more generally required than it used to be. For example, jobs that college and university graduates would be applying for would require a formal application consisting of a cover letter and a resume. A resume will provide an employer with essentially the same information as that found on an application form, but the formatting is the decision of the person applying for a job. A resume is a much more formal channel of communication, demonstrating organizational skills in addition to necessary content. A cover letter is an introductory letter for your resume. Your letter will state, first of all, that you are applying for a certain position or a suitable position in some cases. And secondly, a few words about your education, your work experience, and your skills, especially as it relates to the position you're applying for. You can also inquire about the possibility of an interview. And finally, you thank the person for his or her time. A cover letter should be a computer printout, except for your signature near the bottom of the page. That's usually handwritten. It should be 1 page or less, and it should be neat with no errors in spelling, grammar, or punctuation. On the next page, we've got an example of a cover letter in block format. Cover letters, I want to point out, just in case people are, planning to use them to actually look for work, they can also be great for writing to a company that you would like to work for, but that doesn't have any positions advertised yet. Often there's a delay between when a position opens and when they list the job posting. And sometimes a letter that comes at the right time can help you get their attention before they even see another resume. I've even known 1 or 2 people who had a job created for them when somebody high up in the company really liked their personality and skills and really wanted to work with them. In general, I'm going to suggest this works better with bigger companies that have more money and have kind of more freedom in terms of who's doing what kind of jobs, but it's something to think about. All right, so assignment 36, writing a cover letter, 30 marks. The rough copy is worth 15 marks, and the final copy is worth 15 marks. Following the sample cover letter on the previous page, which we already kind of, I think, looked at, your task with this assignment will be to carefully read a job advertisement chosen from a newspaper, for example, the Sioux Lookout Bulletin, and write a cover letter in response. You are to do a rough copy, handwritten, of your letter, and then revise it and edit it as necessary. You are then to produce a final copy of this letter on a computer. Both the rough copy and the final copy of your cover letter are to be submitted for marking. As you prepare to develop your letter, think about your purpose, your audience, and provide the most important details of information you can as an introduction to your resume. Once again, there should be no mistakes in spelling, grammar, or punctuation. Job ads can be found in the Sioux Lookout Bulletin or any other paper you choose, right? The Thunder Bay Chronicle is fine, Winnipeg Free Press. Um, this I have a web uh, link here, but unfortunately it's no longer valid. There used to be a really lovely site for Sioux Lookout, Hudson area kind of jobs, but it has gone out of business. There is something similar. I can't think of what the name of is right now. I'll have to look it up. This is the generic mark sheet. I don't think it's super informative, but it's there. This is kind of more what I would actually be using to mark things. First of all, does it follow the cover letter format? That's huge because if a business gets your cover letter but it hasn't followed the format, they might not even realize what's going on. Has a clear purpose, both the rough and the good. Occasionally, I've had people just like scribble a few sentences for their rough and hand that in, and that doesn't get very good marks. Please do your best job on both your rough and the good. Shows awareness of the audience, including style and tone. Again, both the rough and the good copy. Details will include personality traits, skills, and work experience. The good copy must show revisions. In other words, there must be changes in the wording, sentence structure, grammar, or paragraphing between your rough copy and your good copy. The good copy must be edited for spelling, punctuation, and capitalization errors. Okay, as always, A is 80 to 100%. B is 70 to 79%. C is 60 to 69%. And a D is 50 to 59%. If you get a D, keep in mind it's still a pass, right? It's only if you get below a D that you haven't passed. All right, so here's the example. Up top is where you're writing from. General Delivery, Mishkegaming, Ontario, POV 3AO. September 14th, 2022. Home Hardware, Attention Manager. And if you knew the full name, you'd put the name there. P.O. Box 938, 40 Alcona Drive, Sioux Lookout, Ontario, P8T 1B3. Dear Mr., Mrs., and again, you'd put their last name there. I would like to be considered for the position of cashier at your store as advertised. At present, I am a student with WASA Distance Education Center and need only 2 credits in order to graduate with my OSSD. One course I am taking this term is OLC 40, which focuses on reading and writing as communication skills for the workplace. I now feel confident that I can be an effective team player at your store and I can handle the duties of cashier. I worked as a cashier part-time last year at the Northern Store in Pickle Lake. I am an honest and hardworking person and also friendly and outgoing. I have good oral and organizational skills as required for this position and have some knowledge of building materials. I am willing to learn as much as possible in order to do my work successfully, so I'm hoping that you will give me an opportunity in this position. I can be reached at any time for an interview at 928-1234. Thank you for your time. Yours sincerely, Debbie Snow. Enclosed is a resume. I'm just going to say, I understand the person who wrote this was trying to like pump up WASA. I would not mention WASA in my very first paragraph. My very first paragraph, I would mention anything that has to do with my having work experience, like the part about being a cashier, I would mention immediately. Okay. Here is another cover letter. This is just a different, I'm not going to read it because this one isn't different. It just is a slightly different style. Okay. Here they've got the name up top. They've got his address over here, and then who he's applying to there. And then they've just kind of indented it. I'm not saying this is better. I'm just saying it's an example of a slightly different one. And here's another one. Again, they've put the name up kind of big, his address, the address he's sending it to, and then the format. I don't know that I would want to do the border that way, but I do kind of like this part where the name's kind of standing out. Okay, so before you write your cover letter, as always when we're writing, you're going to want to brainstorm and plan what to say. So brainstorm what to say in your cover letter about yourself. Think about what skills, experience, training, and personality traits they say they are looking for in the job ad. Below is an example where they're very specific. Okay, now I'm not positive if this will still be a valid link or not. Hang on a second. Okay, So in this particular ad, which is kind of an older ad, they were very specific about what they were looking for. Able to work a flexible schedule, including Saturdays. Excellent communication skills. High school graduation or equivalent. Prior retail experience beneficial. Beneficial, by the way, means it's not required, but it would be nice. Physical ability to lift 25 pounds an asset. And then they very clearly list the responsibilities, which is kind of nice. Yeah. Okay, so that one is one where you've got a really clear idea what they're looking for, and you can kind of tailor your cover letter to that. Now, sometimes um, they don't really tell you a whole lot, and you kind of have to just use your imagination a little bit and think about if you were the boss and you were trying to hire somebody for that particular job, what would you be looking for in terms of skills, experience, training, and personality traits? And here's another example. Sorry, I was afraid that, oh, it's no longer there. This one, it was very bare bones. It just kind of was like, we need somebody for this job. And sometimes you're going to get that, especially for jobs that maybe paying minimum wage. It's very common for them to do a lot of details. So think about what you think they would want. Remember that your rough draft needs to be handwritten and your good copy needs to be done on the computer. It is okay to choose a job that you don't actually have the qualifications for or that you wouldn't really want. I'm only marking your writing. It does not matter to me whether what you wrote matches your actual qualifications. So if you see a great ad for a welding job, but you don't actually have any welding experience, I am fine with that. I'm just checking your writing. I think it's a great idea to go for jobs that you could get, especially if you're looking for work, but not everybody is looking for work. There are some sample letters that you can use to help set up the formatting in Google Docs. Remember that every WASA student has a student Gmail and has access to Google Docs as part of that package. Let me see if I think I've got it. Yeah, okay. So if you are trying to look for that, log into your Google account or your Google Gmail. And then if you go to the upper right-hand corner of your computer screen, there should be a little circle with an initial and then some little dots next to it. And if you click on those dots, all the different Google apps that you have available will open up. And if you go to this one here, the blue one with all the lines, that's Google Docs. That's where you can do word processing, and you would click on that. Once you do that, this is what you'll see next. There's a blank form, there's a letter, there's a resume, there's another letter, a bunch of other things. You can pick one of the letter formats to use. I happen to like the spearmint letter format best. I think it's kind of set up the way we would want it. I don't really care for the green line, but it's easy enough to get rid of that. Here's an example of what that looks like. Okay, so again, if I don't want this, that's fine. Theoretically, I should be able to get rid of this. Hang on a second. I have done this before. If you have trouble getting rid of it, what I would do is I would highlight all this information, copy it, go over, start a whole new document, blank one, and then just paste it in there. Oops, hang on. And now you've got the exact same thing without the line up top, okay? This is just what they call like filler text. It's just kind of showing you where you would do stuff and setting up the formatting. It's not obviously anything that you would really use. Okay. Okay. Creating a rough draft. Generally, you're going to include your name, your address, and ways to contact you. Phone, email, fax, whatever way works best. If you are working currently and your boss is going to be okay with them calling your work phone number, by all means, you can use that. But I would want to be really sure that your boss is okay with that first. Also, put down the date of application. Then you would include their contact information. I don't know why. Maybe just to make sure that it's gone to the right person. Sometimes jobs change, right? Like if you were sending it to the human resources manager and the resource manager just got fired last week, if you have all the contact information, it can go on to the new resource manager. Then you write the greeting. If the ad lists their name, then just use that, like Dear James Smith. If there's no name, it's really common to just write Dear Sir or Madame. If you feel like kind of brave and confident, you can also call up the company and say, hey, I'm sending a resume. Who should I address it to? And sometimes they'll say, oh, well, Peter Smith handles all that stuff. Send it to him. Don't forget, there's always a comma after the greeting, and then leave a space or two, like a line or two, before you start your first paragraph. Your first paragraph is always going to start with mentioning what job posting you are applying to. Okay. Big companies might have anywhere from 10 to 60 job postings at one time. If you've done the exact same job or a very similar job in the past, that is usually the spot where you're going to want to put that as well. So, for example, I am writing to apply for the job of full-time cashier advertised on the Sue Hudson job board. As a cashier at Giant Tiger for the last 2 years, I have the experience and ability to do this job well, and I would love the opportunity to work in this new business you are opening. After that, you may have 2 or 3 short paragraphs. Remember that this is a type of persuasive writing. You're essentially trying to sell yourself as the perfect candidate for this. You're trying to persuade them to hire you for the job. So, what experience do you have that would qualify you for this job? If you haven't done the exact job, have you done something kind of similar, right? So if you were applying for a job in a daycare and you've never worked in a daycare, but you've done a lot of babysitting, then you could mention that. If you're applying for a job on a construction crew and you've never done that, but you've done a lot of building of like sheds, dog houses, or whatever with your family, then you would mention that. What training or education have you had that might relate to this job you're applying to? Things like first aid training, a driver's license, heavy machinery training, some sort of special computer training. What skills do you bring? Maybe you've got certain computer skills, or you're good at like creating websites, cashier experience, great ability to problem solve, fixing machines. It kind of depends what you're applying for. Think about what skills you have that might be useful in that job. Also, what are your personality traits? Not every job needs the same personality traits. So somebody who's going to be in a sales position often has, I need to be enthusiastic, friendly, motivated, able to work under high pressure. Whereas somebody who's maybe just working as a data entry clerk is maybe not going to need to be so outgoing, right? So think again about what kind of personality is that job going to need to be successful. Remember that short paragraphs are often a lot easier to read. Cover letters never go over a page, so you have to be brief while still getting across your most important information. If you are someone who's been in the workforce a long time, keep in mind that you don't have to mention every single job you ever did. So for example, I didn't become a teacher until I was like in my 30s. So I don't even mention anything that happened in my 20s in my resumes or my cover letters because it's not relevant to the type of jobs I'm looking for. So by the same token, if you're looking for a job that's a new field for you, or you're looking for a job at a certain level, like you want to be a manager, but you've only been managing for 10 years, that's the part you're going to mention in your cover letter. You don't need to mention everything. You want to mention the most important things. Closing the letter. The last paragraph is almost always going to suggest an interest in coming in for an interview and ways they can contact you or them. It's usually very upbeat and confident. Even if you don't feel that way, you act like you feel confident, right? Right, leave a space and you write your closing. Sincerely, your name. So even if you're very shy and nervous and anxious, you still say something like, I am confident that I would be a great candidate for this position. I would welcome an opportunity to talk to you about this, okay? It has its own kind of format, and we sort of follow that format, even if it doesn't express how we really feel about ourselves and our experience. Okay. So if you're looking for a job and you have absolutely no work experience, that can be kind of tricky. Maybe you're really young, you've still been in school, maybe you've been staying at home taking care of the kids. So one thing to look at is adding any kind of volunteer experience you have to your cover letter. This can include things like helping chop firewood for the elders, helping set up a feast, helping run the radio station during a funeral. fundraising for any sports teams you're on, helping to run any kind of summer camps, arts camps, science camps, Bible camps, volunteering at the elementary school. Sometimes people will go and kind of help out in some of the classrooms. As well, you could also include in your cover letter any kind of extracurricular activities you may have been involved with, especially if they show off skills such as organization or leadership abilities or relevant skills to the job you're applying for. So some examples might be sports teams or computer club, robotic or Lego club, arts club, scouts or guides, rangers or junior rangers, drama club. So if you're applying for like a job at Al Sports, the fact that you were on sports teams and are aware of what the equipment is might be really helpful. By the same token, if you were applying to Octagon Computers, the fact that you belong to computer clubs and were kind of knowledgeable about computers is also helpful. So it doesn't always have to be work that you got paid for. You can also convey experience and knowledge that you have that you may have obtained in some other way. You could also include any kind of special awards or competitions that you've won. Again, especially if it's relevant to the job you're applying for. Now, this is going to sound funny, but a school attendance award is often a good thing because it shows that you show up every day, which is what people are looking for when they hire people. School subject awards, best math, best English, best native language. Again, especially if like you're applying for a job that's going to use math, having won the award for, best math student in your class, it shows that you know how to do that. Things like poetry or writing competitions, talent shows or arts competitions could include things like music, singing, dancing, drama, powwows. Again, especially if you're going for a job where you maybe need to interact with the public or be very vocal or be very kind of friendly and interactive. Sports awards, most valuable player, things like that, shows cooperation, teamwork, the ability to take direction and that kind of thing. Special talents and skills can also be included. These kinds of skills can often help to show that you're dedicated to learning and to improving your abilities, which can often carry over to a work environment. Some examples of these type of skills might be things like a lifeguarding certificate, playing the piano or guitar or another instrument, speaking and or writing in more than one language fluently. There's lots of jobs that you can only apply for, or they would prefer that you apply for if you have more than one language. Specific computer skills or knowledge of specific computer applications, knowing how to use Excel or PowerPoint or Google Slides can be really useful in certain types of jobs. Photography skills, acting or public speaking abilities, especially if you're going to be working with the public, dancing or singing abilities. Okay, hang on, what happened there? Okay, hang on a second. Sorry, okay. All right. Dear manager, I'd like to be considered for the position of cashier as advertised in the Sioux Bulletin. I have strong math skills and received a B in my high school math course. I also helped do peer tutoring at the high school over lunch in math. I helped our sports team do fundraising to earn money for sports tournaments. I volunteer at the soup kitchen on Thursdays and have learned how to be friendly and patient with people even when they are making complaints. I am outgoing and love interacting with people. I know how to listen to instructions and pick up procedures quickly, as this is an important part of junior rangers. This isn't an entire cover letter, but it's trying to show you how you would incorporate some of your non-work skills in a cover letter, right? You're talking about a thing that you've done and then kind of trying to showcase what skills that demonstrates. Okay. Yep, we've done that. Okay, checklist. Make sure you have a clear audience. Make sure that your purpose is stated. A formal tone. You've included your important skills, included your important personality traits, highlighted your most important work experience, followed the proper letter format, your rough copies in your own handwriting, and your good copies on a computer paper with significant changes. Okay. Sorry, there were some pages I thought included in here, but apparently I didn't. Here is a cover letter, and I've deliberately made some mistakes, and just going to kind of practice editing it. Things to look for are things like incomplete sentences, run-on sentences, comma splice errors, which is a special type of run-on sentence, subject-verb agreement, verb consistency, and punctuation errors. So I'm going to kind of read it through and then go back and sort of look at it more closely to see what mistakes need to be fixed. I am writing to express my strong interest in the marketing coordinator position at Borcel Marketing. I had a bachelor's degree in marketing and 3 years of experience in marketing and communications. I believe I have the skills and experience necessary to excel in this role. In my current position at Lorena Inc., I have had the opportunity to develop and execute successful marketing campaigns across various channels, including social media, email, and traditional advertising. I am contributing to the development of marketing strategies, working closely with cross-functional teams to ensure successful execution. I am excited about the opportunity to bring my skills and experience to Borcel Marketing and contribute to the success of the marketing team. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to the opportunity to discuss my qualifications further. Okay, so incomplete sentences. As I was reading, I definitely noticed a few incomplete sentences. So right away here, working closely with cross-functional teams to ensure successful execution. Working is a verb, but there's no subject, so I can either put a subject in front or I could connect it to this previous sentence. I am contributing to the development of marketing strategies by working closely with cross-functional teams. So I connected it with the use of the word by. I changed the capital into a lowercase. I thought there was one more. Oh, here it is. Including social media, email, and traditional advertising. These are my examples. Sometimes people try and set them off by using a capital letter, but we don't want to because it becomes an incomplete sentence. So I'm just going to change the period into a comma and then change this capital I to a lowercase I, and then it should make sense. I've had the opportunity to develop and execute successful marketing campaigns across various channels, including social media, email, and traditional advertising. Okay, I think I've got my incomplete sentences, run-on sentences, and comma splice errors. I'm going to kind of look for them. Basically, if you're joining two sentences, you have to have a comma and a conjunction. You can't just use a comma to join two sentences. So the first sentence is fine. The second one, though, we've got one whole sentence here and then a comma, and then a second whole sentence. Because this first sentence is pretty long, I'm just going to end the sentence right there. I want to make sure it makes sense. I had a bachelor's degree in marketing and 3 years of experience in marketing communications. Yes, that makes sense by itself. I believe I have the skills and experience necessary to excel in this role. Yep, that makes sense as well. Here, the comma is just an introductory phrase. It's not a sentence all by itself. That's fine. Here, the comma is just kind of setting off the examples. We've already fixed that sentence. I think we're pretty good for the rest. Subject-verb agreement is when, again, a singular noun has a singular verb, a plural noun has a plural verb. None of them really jumped out at me, but I will kind of keep a look on that. I'm also going to be checking for verb consistency. Verb consistency is when you write either all in past tense or all in present tense, or I suppose in future tense. For a cover letter, you're generally writing in past tense because you're talking about experiences you've already had. You might switch to future tense or present tense near the bottom when you're talking about what steps you want to take next. But this is one of those things that I do find is common mistakes and people don't necessarily notice. So I am writing, that's fine, present tense is fine, to express my strong interest. I had, well, you still have. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing and 3 years of experience in marketing communications, right? Had sounds like you used to have it, but somehow it's gotten lost. You don't. I believe, yep, that's fine, still current. In my current position at Lorena, I have had the opportunity to develop and execute. That makes sense. I am contributing. I would switch that to I have contributed. Contributing sounds like you're still kind of doing it, whereas contributed sounds like it's already happened. I've contributed to the development of marketing strategies by working closely. Okay, that makes sense. I'm excited about the opportunity to bring my skills and experience to Borsell marketing and contribute to the success. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward. Yep, that all works good. Punctuation errors. The main one, well, there's two, I think, that comes. They're kind of both in the last sentence. One, we wouldn't really use exclamation points in business letters. They kind of sound inappropriate or like too excited. The other one is there's an apostrophe error. Qualifications, apostrophe S. Remember that apostrophe only shows either a contraction or possession. And this is not a contraction. It's not my qualification is further. And it's not possession. So I'm going to take out that apostrophe and just make it a straight S. So there's an example of my editing. So we talked about Google Docs as being the sample cover letter. I wanted to show there's one more. Hopefully I can get into it. I've used this as well. Canva. It is a free and a paid program. You can access a lot of things, even just with the free program. Let me see here. Let's see if I can do a letter. Cover letter. Okay. Let's see here. I just wanted to show you this because sometimes people find, oh, that's weird. Cover letter. Okay. So sometimes people really don't enjoy setting up all of the formatting and stuff, and they're not sure how to do it, and it makes them kind of stressed out. So let me see here. I'm just going to use something like very simple like this. Okay. Ooh, it's kind of fuzzy though. Hang on. Why is it not coming up? Yes, that is a new page. Hang on a second. Okay. I don't particularly like this one, but it is an example where the formatting is already all set up for you. And it kind of looks very formal and well designed. It's kind of nice to see. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can go back and grab a slightly different one that's more useful to us. I was thinking of this one. There we go. Okay, now I like this. It's nice and clean. I don't have to leave these little swoops on. I could easily just take them off, throw them in the garbage. If I don't want them, I could leave them on if I wanted to. Now, one thing is, this has who it's to. It hasn't got who it's from. So you would want to include that part here. And again, this is just kind of already all set up. If you wanted to get fancy for some reason, this is one way that you could do it. The other thing is, if you're not sure what to say, if you just enter, hang on, let me see if I can grab it here. It's kind of under there. If you do something like sample cover letters, you'll get a bunch of images come up. If you go to like job sites like this, like Indeed, hang on a second, I think it'll come up properly. Okay, accounting clerk. Let's see. Okay, there you go. It gives you some examples of how to put things. Because sometimes you can get kind of stuck for how do I say what I want to say? What are they looking for? So if you're looking for a very specific job and you're kind of trying to think of how to say it, this is kind of what you do. Now, you wouldn't want to copy it word for two reasons. One, that's plagiarism, where you're using somebody else's words for yourself. And a lot of companies may check for that. You don't want it to look like you weren't being honest on your cover letter. Secondly, because this is kind of a generic letter and it may not match exactly your skills and your abilities. So you'd want to tweak it for yourself. But again, it's just kind of a way to look at things. Like, I'm a recent graduate. During my education, I worked in several internship positions. Not everybody does, but sometimes they do. I'm familiar with your company. I'm excited about the opportunity. all those kind of phrases can sometimes be kind of, I don't know, tricky to find for yourselves. So that's one example. Let me see. Hang on. So places like Indeed, Novo Resume, else Job Hero, My Perfect Resume. Those are all just kind of places you can look for some examples of how to phrase things. Okay. Uh, that is more or less it. Hang on. I think. Yep, it is. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at doing the resume. This is the cover letter, tomorrow is the resume. So you may want to make sure you've got kind of your rough information down. If you've got an old resume, or just kind of think about what you want to say, because we're going to be working on that. Are there any questions today about doing a cover letter? No? Okay. Thank you so much for sorting up. Tomorrow we will meet again.